a narrow way through.
Warner Brothers just launched the third trailer for the sequel to 2021's Dune, and to be honest, we couldn't be more hyped. It has been more than 2 years since we got our last glimpse of Arrakis and our protagonist, Paul Atreides, making us all the more anxious about what the future holds for our heroes. Released in 2021, director Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's path-breaking novel came pretty close to realizing the excruciatingly detailed world created by Herbert, garnering international praise and acclaim in the process. However, the world of Dune is a terribly complicated one, rife with political backstabbing, shifting alliances, and interplanetary warfare. It is difficult to keep track of all the intricate Dune lore unless you're a bona fide mentat. Though there have been other attempts to adapt the book into a film, it has proved to be a daunting task for most filmmakers. Also, from the trailer of Dune Part 2, it's clear that things are going to get a whole lot messier this time around, with the emergence of new factions and antagonists. Thus, in this marvelous video, we will recap all the events that took place over the course of the first movie in an attempt to catch you up. However, before we move ahead, please like and subscribe to our channel. It may be a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. With that out of the way, let's power up our ornithopters and begin our journey towards the harsh sands of Arrakis. The world of Dune. To truly understand what drove the events in the first Dune movie and the motivations of its characters, let's first try to understand the world created by Herbert. This landmark sci-fi novel was first published in 1965. Since then, it has encaptured the minds of many enthusiasts and sci-fi aficionados owing to its almost neo-realist depiction of what a society of the future might look like. The entirety of Dune's world hinges on spice, a psychotropic substance found on the desert planet of Arrakis, which is essential for interstellar travel. This spice melange also bestows strange powers upon those who consume it, greatly increasing the vitality, lifespan, and mental faculties of anyone who consumes it on a daily basis. What makes Arrakis so vital to the entire system is the fact that it is the only planetary source of the chemical in the known universe. But harvesting the spice poses its own challenges, as Arrakis is one of the most uninhabitable climates known to man. There is also the constant threat of the sandworms, humongous creatures that live deep within the sand dunes and only rear their heads when sensing activity on the surface above. To avoid conflict amongst various factions and houses for the command over the spice trade, the rulers of Arrakis are assigned by the man at the top of this interplanetary government, Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. At the beginning of the tale, the tyrannical house of Harkonnen is the one that is in control of the desert planet and has been able to consolidate its territory by brutally oppressing the native Fremen living on the planet. The house Harkonnen, led by the dreaded Baron, has been interlocked in generational conflict against House Atreides, rulers of Caladan. The main protagonist of this twisted tale is Paul, the heir to House Atreides, the son of its current leader, Duke Leto. Apart from the royal houses, there are also other players with their own hidden motives and schemes. Take, for instance, the mysterious cult of the Bene Gesserit, an exclusively female group who have been rumored to possess superhuman mental and physical capabilities. Interestingly, Paul's mother was also a member of the cult before she was chosen as a consort for the Duke of Caladan. Despite belonging to the science fiction genre, Dune takes place in a society where the use of computers is banned. Instead, they use the aforementioned mentats, who are individuals with great mental faculties and intellect honed by the continual use of spice. Characters. Next, let's dive deeper into the characters that bring this world to life. A customary glance through the Dune wiki will undoubtedly alert you to the fact that there are far too many characters in this epic saga. It is befittingly, actually, as the story spans across planets and galaxies, consuming the entire known universe within its conflict. Therefore, it becomes essential for us to explore the motivations and characteristics of both our protagonists and antagonists, as they are the ones who drive this story forward. Also, despite the spectacular world building, it is through the subtle nuances and internal turmoils of these characters that we truly grasp the themes embedded in this saga.
Come on, old man.
Paul Atreides. Paul is the central protagonist of this saga, and most of the events unfold through his perspective. Paul bears all the marks of a chosen one. As the son of Duke Atreides and Lady Jessica, Paul is an astute and observant young man, trained in both combat and the Bene Gesserit ways. However, under Paul's stoic demeanor, the boy is haunted by strange visions of cataclysm from the very start of his journey. He is portrayed by Timothée Chalamet in the film.
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer.
Duke Leto I Atreides. The current ruler of the Atreides, the Duke, is a cautious and just man. The Duke seems to be a protective ruler with a great concern about his men and soldiers. However, as we find out through the course of the film, he does have some vulnerabilities of his own. The Duke is well familiar with the crimes of House Harkonnen and has essentially been at war with them throughout his life. His character is played by Oscar Isaac in the film. Though he is always fair and even-handed, the Duke also possesses a competent military force with notable officers like the Mentat, Thufir Hawat, Gurney Halleck, and Duncan Idaho. These characters are portrayed by Stephen McKinney, Josh Brolin, and Jason Momoa, respectively. Lady Jessica. Played by Rebecca Ferguson, Lady Jessica was one of the most intriguing characters in the 2021 film. She is technically a concubine to the Duke, but as a former Bene Gesserit member, she exerts a great deal of influence over the royal house. In addition to being a loyal confidant to the Duke, she has also taught the young Paul various Bene Gesserit skills, but over the course of the story, we begin to realize that she might be one of the few people who actually knows the true scale of what's about to take place.
My Arrakis.
Vladimir Harkonnen. Baron Harkonnen, the ruthless chief of the House Harkonnen, has been built up as the final boss of the saga so far. We are sure there are twists and turns ahead, but so far we have come to see this tyrant as the embodiment of evil and cruelty. He is the evil force behind most of the misfortunes that fall upon the Atreides and is portrayed by the legendary Stellan Skarsgård. He rules over the entire spice trade with an iron fist, thanks to the help of his psychotic beast of a nephew, Rabban, who is played by Dave Bautista. Chani, the mysterious Fremen warrior, first appears to Paul in his prophetic visions about the sand planet Arrakis. Throughout the film, Chani is our mysterious guide into the harsh planet and becomes a voice for the oppression the Fremen have suffered owing to the spice trade. Zendaya has brought a great deal of intrigue and depth to this pivotal character despite his comparatively brief appearance on the screen. In the film, she belongs to a band of sand dwellers led by the rugged Stilgar, who have been rebelling against Harkonnen rule for ages. According to the Emperor's mandate, they have been forced to live under the heinous crimes of the Harkonnen for decades, because of which they have been forced to hide deep in the harsh deserts of their home planet. Over the course of the story, it becomes clear that Chani and Paul share a special bond, and more importantly, a bloody future.
Thank you, Dr. Yue.
Wellington Yui. Played by Chan Cheng, Dr. Yui is the trusted physician of House Atreides. Before the events of Dune, Yue's wife had been abducted by the Harkonnens and presumed to be killed. However, this would essentially form the seed of all the tragic events to follow. Of course, there are more characters that play essential parts in the story to follow, but we will get to meet them in time. But for now, we are all caught up on the central characters of this epic interplanetary saga, so let's dive right into the meat of the matter. The events of Dune Part 1. House Atreides migrates. This is the first major plot point that sets in motion all the events of the film. After many years of unopposed Harkonnen rule upon the spice trade, the great Emperor has made an unprecedented decision. The Harkonnen are to relinquish their claim over Arrakis in favor of the noble House Atreides, the rulers of Caladan. This mandate is the foundation on which the Dune saga is built. An envoy sent by the Emperor arrives on the planet of Caladan and reveals this royal decree to the Duke and his house. In the opening sequences of the film, we see the members of the royal house reacting to this news with anxiety and suspicion. In an early sequence of Paul's training with the veteran Gurney Halleck, the mentor emphasizes the Harkonnens' brutality towards their enemies and warns him of the dangers that await on Arrakis. Though the Duke and his council believe this to be a trap, they are still compelled to heed the Emperor's command. Wary of the Emperor's plot, the Duke readies his forces for departure. The Bene Gesserit and the coming of the Kwisatz Haderach. Before their departure, Paul is awakened in the dead of night by his mother, Lady Jessica. Here we have our encounter with the mysterious matriarchal order of Bene Gesserit and their leader, the Reverend Mother. Paul is forced to undergo the deathly Gom Jabbar test in order to test the young boy's mental control. After the Atreides heir passes his test, it is revealed that Lady Jessica had been a part of the Bene Gesserit's centuries-long breeding program and was instructed to bear a daughter, whose son would become the Messiah, Kwisatz Haderach. But Jessica had turned against the order, owing to her great love for Leto, which resulted in Paul's birth. After Paul survives the mysterious box of pain, it becomes even more evident that he might just be the prophesied Messiah. A new home. We catch our first glimpse of the harsh dunes of Arrakis once the Atreides family arrives on the unfamiliar planet. It is obvious from the get-go that all isn't well in Paul's new home. It appears that the natives of Arrakis revere Jessica and Paul thanks to Bene Gesserit's rumors that Paul is the reincarnation of their Messiah. While the family is settling into Arrakeen, the humongous fort once commanded by the Harkonnens, the young heir is attacked by an assassin with a hunter-seeker. Meanwhile, the Duke learns from the Imperial paleontologist Liet Kynes that most of the spice mining equipment left behind by the Harkonnens has been tampered with. Despite these problems, it becomes increasingly clear that Paul has a strange link with this planet. The mysterious Fremen, Chani, begins to feature more heavily in his dreams, especially after the young prince ingests some spice during an unfortunate encounter with the leviathans of the desert, the sandworms. In his visions, he sees that his mother, the Lady Jessica, is bearing a child. The Atreides also manage to form an informal alliance with Stilgar, leader of a band of reclusive Fremen troops discovered deep in the deserts by Duncan, Idaho. An evil alliance. On the Harkonnen homeworld of Gedi Prime, it becomes clear that there is indeed a coup in place. The Baron bides away his time while waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The Baron's mentat, Peiter de Vries, tries to convince the emboldened under Emperor Shaddam's protection. The Baron also has at his disposal the complete might of the Sardaukar, the most formidable fighting force in the known universe. The sequence depicting the Sardaukar is one of the most terrifying visuals of the film, as we see the Baron's nephew walk through legions of literally bloodthirsty warriors to the tune of what seems to be an ancient battle cry arising from the very depths of the universe. The Harkonnen attacks. Remember the loyal physician Dr. Yui? Well, it turns out that he wasn't really as loyal as we all believed. Cornered under the Baron's threat to his abducted wife, Yui is forced to act against his beloved Duke, and one fateful night he disables the fort's defensive shields. Taking most of the Atreides forces by surprise, the Sardaukar then invaded the fort and took Leto hostage. The Atreides forces suffer countless casualties, while Lady Jessica and Paul are abducted by the Sardaukars. Though the mother and son manage to escape thanks to their Bene Gesserit powers, they soon find themselves abandoned on the desert planet. Shot with impeccable visuals, this attack sequence is a violent treat for the senses. However, it's the lasting image of Paul looking upon the fallen Atreides forces going up in flames that haunts us the most. Inside the usurped castle, the captured Duke finally meets his bitter nemesis, the Baron. Despite his unfavorable situation, Leto stands defiantly and uses a poison gas capsule hidden in one of his teeth to kill a large portion of the Baron's guard, including his mentat. However, the Baron survives and releases his soldiers in search of the Duke's missing heir. Duncan Idaho's sacrifice. Lost in the spice-filled dunes of Arrakis, Paul's visions begin to grow more haunting, and he sees a holy war in his frantic hallucinations. Though they are expected to die in the desert, the mother and son survive, thanks to Fremen kit left by Yue. The two are rescued by the trusted Duncan Idaho and the Fremen paleontologist Dr. Kynes, who leads them to an abandoned subterranean facility. However, Paul and his comrades are soon attacked by the Baron's soldier, and Duncan ends up sacrificing himself in the ensuing battle. The mother and son are left alone in the desert after Dr. Kynes also falls to a Sardaukar attack. Joining the Fremen. While lost in the vast desert, Paul and Jessica find their way to Stilgar's band of Fremen by following Duncan's directions. Stilgar knows of the attacks on Arrakeen and offers refuge to Lady Jessica. However, in order to join the Sand Tribe, Paul has to go through a ritualistic battle to the death with tribe member Jamis. In the consequent face-off, Paul overpowers the seasoned warrior and kills him using the symbolic dagger created out of a sandworm tooth. The battle seems to signify Paul's total surrender to the Fremen's ways, as well as his acceptance of the destiny that awaits him. In the aftermath of the fight with Jamis, we see Paul leave with the tribe of Fremen as one of their own. In the aftermath of the fight with Jamis, we see Paul leave with the tribe of Fremen as one of their own. It is certain that through his journeys with these warriors of Arrakis, Paul will not only hone his own skills and abilities, but also learn knowledge that has been privy only to the natives of Arrakis for generations. The movie implies that this is the dawn of a new life for Paul, the likes of which he has not even seen in his visions. What awaits us? This brings us to what is probably the most important part of this video. Following the events of part 1, the world of Dune is now rife with possibilities. Without resorting to spoilers from the books, we can still make some estimations regarding what the future holds. In Paul's visions, we have already seen what appears to be his fate at the end of the journey. In one of the most memorable scenes from the movie, we see Paul returning to what appears to be Caladan, his eyes glowing blue owing to continuous spice usage. At his command is a legion of masked killers, while at his side is Chani. Other than this, the trailers have also teased the arrival of Baron Harkonnen's younger nephew and heir, Fed Rota, to be played by Austin Butler. Snippets also reveal that Paul and Chani's romance has continued to blossom, and we will probably see much more of Zendaya's fierce Fremen warrior in the sequel. The shadowy Emperor will also be a more direct influence this time, as we have already seen glimpses of his daughter, Princess Irulan, in the trailer, where she seems to be discussing the fate of the Empire with the Reverend Mother and other Bene Gesserits. If these trailers are any indication, all Dune fans are indeed in for a ride right now, and there has certainly never been a greater time to be a part of this fandom. We are certain that Villeneuve's stellar visuals and Hans Zimmer's outstanding soundtrack will bring out the best in this landmark franchise, which has changed the very essence of sci-fi in many ways. Marvelous verdict. Dune has always been a juggernaut for the sci-fi genre ever since Frank Herbert's epic tale began serialization in 1963. Since then, it has developed its own cult of hardcore followers and has spawned an endless amount of novels and associated media. The novel has served as an inspiration for everything from Star Wars to Ghibli films, but for the longest time, the story was famously seen as unadaptable by Hollywood. However, 2021's Dune Part 1 was the first time we saw a major Hollywood production bring Arrakis to life in a convincing and engaging manner. Owing to this, the anticipation for Dune Part 2 is even higher, as the first part has not only satisfied pre-existing fans but also won over the hearts of many new ones. We hope that this rundown of Part 1 helped to jog your memory and helped clear any doubts you might have had about the desert planet. Dune Part 2 is all set to release on the 1st of March, and we at Marvelous Videos can't contain our excitement. That is it for today, but please let us know what facet of Dune you would like us to cover in the future. Also, do not forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with all the updates from the intriguing world of Dune. Well then, have a good one, and always remember, fear is the mind killer.